Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is going to be a speed run ranking 5 new-ish IEMs. I've got the Ziigaat Luna, which is a 6BA set coming in at $379. It's got this very clean reference type tuning. The Ziigaat Crescent making it a little bit more lively, more punch rumble on the low end, a little bit more intimate. The Crescent being 2 DDs, 2 BAs coming in at $279, so $100 less than the Luna. I've got the Punch Audio Martilo, which is my favorite in this video and going to be very unique. It is a bass headset, but coming in at $329 with 2 DDs, 2 BAs, 1 planar. The Punch Audio Martilo working surprisingly well in almost every title that I have utilized it in. A very good IEM for gaming and a tuning that is very different than anything else on the wallhack certified tier list, which makes this one so interesting to me. The Heartfield CU8 coming in with a neutral Harman-like tuning as well. I don't think it comes off quite as clean as either the Crescent or the Ziigaat Luna, but it is a 4BA set coming in at $279. And then I have the Spa High-End Limited from EarAcoustic. This is one dynamic driver. The most interesting aesthetic I think I've ever seen, but I think the price increase is primarily for the aesthetic. It is a single dynamic driver with all that glitter on the faceplate, but it is quite a bit warmer than the offerings from Ziigaat as well as Heartfield. But overall, single dynamic driver coming in with the aesthetic, the limited edition at $429. But let's get into my thoughts, my opinions, and 2 titles that we tested for this speedrun, Valorant and Apex. The EarAcoustic Spa High-End in Valorant does have some drawbacks. The bass is too prevalent. It is a warmer set. I wouldn't say the staging is very wide or very deep, but the staging isn't really claustrophobic. It does have too much bass impacted. It does overshadow the other things that are happening in the mix. So when you are shooting a Vandal, Operator, Sheriff, when somebody else is shooting a Vandal, when somebody else is shooting a Sheriff, it becomes almost impossible to hear the lighter things that are happening around you. Getting the hits around the map of gunfire also could shed off some meat and some bloat from the bass, making things feel more precise in terms of general depth perception. I think, though, that the general bass bloat and muddiness on this set, the lack of air and technicality, is going to take a step back in terms of that horizontal imaging and frontal depth that we enjoy for attack shooters. It takes a hit there, and then separation and layering taking too much of a hit because of the extent of the bass for Valorant. I would put this at a B-, almost crossing into a C+, but I think I'm happy with placing these at a B- for Valorant. Up next, the Punch Audio Martilo. I think this is going to be the most surprising IEM in this entire roundup because this is the only basshead IEM that's actually going to score highly on my wallhack certified tier list, like ever of all time. This is got more sub bass, more mid bass, just looking at the graph objectively speaking, than the Spa high end, but the bass is more textured with very good control. The bass feels more airy, it feels more technical, it feels more fast in attack and decay. It's something that's very well controlled despite getting that additional rumble. You think just looking at that graph that it would overpower everything else, but the treble remains airy and very clean and elevated as well. Like, it does not get lost in the mix. Neither do the mids. I feel like there is just not really that element of occlusion that I was feeling because of the kind of bloaty and muddy feeling bass on the Spa high end. This actually remains very clean within the space. The stage actually feels wider and deeper than the Spa high end as well. And I think that element of air and that texture and how technical that bass is and its attack and cleanliness is really just leading to a great experience. There are things in Valorant that have that additional rumble in the low end, making things just a very different experience, but it's not anything that ever became overpowering. Vandal shots, the deeper thocks on certain materials coming through very clean. The depth perception around the map, like, it just hits in a different, relevant way that remains very good in terms of that depth read. I would easily put these at an A-, maybe bordering at B+. And the only reason I say that is when you are pushing into a site as a team and there are multiple Vandals going off, multiple abilities going off, maybe that could present a little bit more of a problem. but it's actually just a very good, technically clean set for competitive gaming, just in a very different flavor. And I think that's what makes the Punch Audio Martilo so interesting on the wallhack certified tier list. This is the highest of its kind, coming in at an A-, maybe bordering again a B+ in Valorant. So far for me, the standout performance is definitely the Ziigaat Luna. This might be one of the best ZiiGaats that I've listened to for Valorant in particular, getting an A across the board. I think the separation, layering, imaging, the staging here, all very good. This is a clean set with very clean bass, but I don't find the bass to be dull. It's still got a nice bite to it, a nice punch to it, where it sounds very fun. But not something that obviously has that level of rumble in the sub or mid bass. Everything again being very clean. I find this to be a set with very nice staging. Everything stands out very well from the treble, the mids, and the low end. I don't find anything to be like being pulled away from the mix to any great extent. Some of the lighter taps, the gunfire, everything sounding like it's coming through at a very high level of emphasis here. So to me, it's just a set where I'm getting very good imaging, everything including the steps on different materials, the gunfire coming through with a very good emphasis and elevation and very good depth, but remaining very clean in its technicalities. So think a reference clean technical set where everything is coming through at a nice elevation, and very good separation, layering, and general imaging on this set. I find the staging to be very good. It feels large, but not like things are getting too far away from me. So it still feels like an engaging set in Valorant, more so than other sets, which is very interesting. So a very clean technical reference tuning here for Valorant, and one that is definitely performing the best out of the things that we've tried so far. Definitely had my best performance on this, and probably the best that I've heard from Ziigaat in Valorant. Again, getting an A in Val. The Crescent is very interesting as well. This is another solid performer. It's going to get an A- to a B+. And the reason why I think it takes a backseat to something like the Luna is the bass is definitely more cinematic and more engaging. You've got a little bit more of this rumble, and the staging does kind of feel more immersive on the Crescent than the Luna. But the Luna, the information read is so good in like every which direction that things are just pulling through to a greater extent on the Luna than they are on the Crescent, in terms of the lighter taps and the reloads and the technical details coming through with just great emphasis on the Luna. I do find that the lower end does detract as well from certain things. For instance, when I am shooting a Vandal, that additional low end emphasis and mid bass emphasis is detracting a bit from the softer things that are going on, especially at a distance. So separation and layering do take a hit, in my opinion, in comparison to the Luna. And again, I think that the imaging is still fantastic, but I do find that like horizontal draw and depth perception to just feel cleaner on the Luna because of a little bit cleaner cut bass, a little bit less bloom. Not that I find the bass to be like that bloomy or uncontrolled on the Crescent. It's just I find the Luna to be that much better in those areas to keep all that information really right there for you to read at an analytical level. Very good on this set, just a bit more immersive, a bit more on the lower end and in the mid bass. Still a great sense of air throughout the mix, but definitely giving the edge to the Luna for Valorant in its overall technicalities. And again, particularly in that low end region, and just having a great read on all the details, as opposed to kind of like more of the gunfire shining through the mix. And wrapping up Valorant is the Heartfield CU8. This is another kind of neutral-esque tuning here, but one that does not sound as nearly reference as the Luna or as technical, both in the bass as well as in the treble. To me, the gunfire is a little bit too elevated and comes across a bit too not like shouty, but just a little bit too much and overpowers the other things that are happening in the mix. Not because of the low end, but probably that 2 to 3K region, making it a little bit more the focal point when people are shooting. I do find that the sub bass boost over something like the Luna also does add a little bit too much additional on the low end that does detract from that analytical feel. I don't find the imaging to be as good as the Luna or the Crescent or the Martilo. I don't find that depth perception to be as good either on horizontal draw or when people are in front of me. It just isn't coming off as good as the Martilo, Crescent, or Luna. I do find that the additional rumble on the low end does become a little prevalent on Vandal shots as well, adding to that extra element of things during gunfire, that detraction from the separation, detraction from the layering, particularly in fights. And there is something going on in the upper mids as well with respect to abilities coming across as quite elevated as well. So for those reasons, I would probably detract it quite a bit. I need to do maybe some tip rolling on this set. It is a metal chassis, and maybe it'll fare better with some other ear tips. But right now I'm kind of leaning towards a B. I think there are things that could be quite a bit better on the Heartfield CU8 for Valorant in particular. I really wanted the CU8 to work just because they look absolutely stunning, but this is not going to be a high-ranking set in Apex by any stretch of the imagination. The separation and layering, when you start adding in gunfire to third parties, fourth parties, even if I'm just shooting, it is too elevated, and the separation and layering are just not there. You almost lack this sense of airiness in that region, and it becomes too much to pay attention to almost anything. This is the set where you will feel like a deer in the headlights when you are shooting or engaging in a fight. If there's a third party or fourth party, it's going to be almost impossible to hear anything that's happening around you. Add into the issue of that little sub-bass extension, there is a lot of rumble and a little bit of bloat to things like smokes, octane cues, grenades, ultimates going off, that it just compounds to the issue of separation and layering becoming just something that's not all that great. It's very hard to pay attention in fights where you are shooting and other people are shooting as it is, but you add in those other issues, it just becomes very difficult to focus and hear things going on in Apex. I would not be able to give this set more than a C+ for Apex. The Spa Limited is a warm set and it actually handled pretty good in Apex. I would give this a B. I think the separation and layering actually handled quite well. I didn't have any issue during fights with gunfire per se, but it's more so kind of that warmth, and once things start going with ultimates going off, grenades, etc., it begins to become a little hard with separation and layering. In terms of like general imaging though, it's actually quite good. The footsteps, the slides, different things going on in buildings, I actually don't have an issue picking up those things even in fights with a third party. It's really just when things start cooking with a lot of abilities plus gunfire, but this actually does handle gunfire quite a lot better than the CU8. Things breathe quite a bit more than the CU8. I think this is a IEM that can handle Apex actually pretty well, and again, I'm going to be giving it a B. Okay, the Punch Audio Martilo. I just swapped to these following the Spa Limited Edition, and I'm going to put the Spa actually at a B to a B-. I think that when you swap to these, you can really hear the difference in this air within the space, the depth perception being that much cleaner, and the imaging in general. But I will say that this set is exceptionally surprising. When you look at the graph, again, I would not expect this to be a set that is good in Apex Legends, and I was kind of teetering on like giving this an A- to a B+. I'm probably going to stick to a B+. There are some things, again, that sound so good within this set. The air within the space, gunfire, imaging, depth perception, verticality, it's all there. The only thing is you do get that rumble and that warmth on some things. The storm behind your back, thermites, ults going off like Bangalore, Gibraltar, things like that, you get this extra rumble. But the separation and layering sound so good on this set when that stuff is going on. You still have this ability to pick up those slides, to pick up gunfire within the space with a great level of accuracy while a lot is going on. Third parties handled very well on the Punch Audio Martilo. And again, this is the only set on the wallhack certified tier list with this type of a tuning. So to me, this is almost one of the most exciting sets in a long time. It's really cool to have a bass headset that works this damn good for gaming. The ZiiGaat Luna, I need some more testing on this, maybe try some tip rolling, but right now in Apex, the separation and layering is actually taking too much of a hit in the upper mid-range. So when there's a lot of gunfire, your armor's being pierced, you're piercing other people's armors, the crack of a Bangalore smoke going off, the cracks of some of the grenades, when there's a lot of shooting and you're popping a shield cell, a battery, etc. Some issues there just because it's not as even keel as it is in Valorant. The upper mid-range is just too prevalent, too loud, and does become a little bit shouty in Apex. And when those things are happening, instead of that low-end rumble causing an issue, it's actually that upper mid-range that's causing an issue in Apex. I will give this a B+ right now. Again, I've got to try some tip rolling, etc., see if it changes anything. But right now, I would be satisfied giving this a B+ for Apex. For Apex Legends, my pick out of the lot would be the Ziigaat Crescent, but it would be very close to the Punch Audio Martilo, surprisingly. I find the Ziigaat Crescent to work better than the Luna because in Apex, a little bit more intimacy and a little bit more liveliness actually work out very well, so that you're not just getting hit with these consistent high-end shouty noises, gunfire, grenade cracks, etc. This actually works very well in that slides, taps, other things happen to get picked out of the mix to a greater extent. Gunfire is not as piercing as it is on the Luna or as prevalent, making things quite a bit better in gunfights, third parties, etc. with gunfire. I don't think that it gets to the level of the Kiwi Astral or the Mangird Tea Pro in its ability to have this greater level of breathability and greater performance of separation and layering in like massive fights, but it's actually very, very good. I'm going to go A-, bordering in A. The Crescent actually landing very good in Apex and Valorant. So guys, that is going to be it for this one. Out of this video, again, the one that's most interesting to me is the Punch Audio Martilo. I think this is a killer bass headset that does work very well for gaming, which might be the most compelling purchase. I think they are fantastic in every title that I've thrown them in, but of course, you gotta want that type of tuning. The next two IEMs that I think kind of stand out from the mix are the Ziigaat Luna as well as the Crescent. I think the Crescent is a better all-rounder. If you're looking, though, for a reference tuning, the Luna does work very well in Valorant, but again, I don't think it worked quite as well in Apex. The Heartfield CU8 and the EarAcoustic, I would probably put much lower on the wallhack certified tier list based on those two titles that I tested today. I think the three standout IEMs out of this new roundup are, again, these three right here. That is going to be it, though, for this one, guys. I hope it helped. If it did, please leave a sub to the channel. See you guys in the next review. Peace.